Party for Progress, PFP's in the house. We always go and we talk to the leader first. Good morning. How you doing? Melissa Gumbs.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
All right, and good morning to I always call you Raeyhon. It's Raeyhon.
Yes, Raeyhon.
Put your mic on. Put your mic on.
All right.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thanks for having us, Billy.
I'm happy, man. I think the whole world is waiting for us today. I think we're gonna get more log on today than any other time. Melissa Gumbs, who are you?
Who am I? To use a popular phrase, daughter of the soil, born and raised on St. Martin, to Marcel and Myra. Very proud of my heritage on this island. You know, I think the perfect combination of the Dutch and the French side, as they would say.
Yeah, you got it all.
I got it all, as they would say. On my grandmother's side and my grandfather's side. So from her to all the way back to, you know, Alexander Gumbs, Daniel Esprit Beaubetouille, and you know, you could trace it just by the cemetery there in French Quarter. I think the lineage, and but I think that's the whole party actually, because even Ray, I think the majority of the party ties to French Quarter.
Nationality, Melissa. You have dual nationality, or?
Working on that, trying to, yeah. I mean, not, you know, it's always my dream. I tell people all the time I'm gonna retire to the French side and go live with my father. But definitely happy of that, and it's something that, you know, we've also tried to push as a party, that collective, you know, working together kind of environment for the island.
Correct. Raeyhon Peterson, who are you?
Well, my father is from here, but I also have my links to the Dutch and the.
Your father's from the French side?
From the Dutch side, actually. He's a Peterson from Simpson Bay, but a lot of people don't know that my grandfather, he was a Peterson, Simpson Bay, George Peterson, but my grandmother, her name was Marie-Anne Germain. So she's from French Quarter. So a fun fact, Melissa is like my second or third cousin.
Yeah,
somewhere there.
So yeah, so I grew up in Curacao, but I used to come here since I was a baby. You know, since my father was living here.
Yeah.
And I've been coming here my whole life. I used to stay right up there, French Quarter, by my grandmother. And when I went to studies, and throughout my studies, you know, something, you know, a calling came over me, and I said, you know, I wanted to go back to the land where my father was from. You know, I felt that affinity with St. Martin. Correct. And I came here around 2015, 16, and since then and after Irma.
So you're not too long since you're back?
No, not at all. And I actually met Melissa in 2018, I think, after Irma. I was invited to meet this, you know, dynamic young group of professionals who, you know, kind of had a different mindset. And little did you know, that became PFP.
Yeah, and you know, this is amazing because I said a parliament in Phillipsburg soon will have pure French people in it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, exactly. We had governors that were from Rambo, so we're too bad. I want to go back, Melissa, a little bit on and Raeyhon just said it, the PFP. Where does the PFP come from?
So from 2009, I moved to the Netherlands for work, and while I was there, I started a student foundation with my friend Cyril Fennings, also from St. Martin, and we started it because the students were going through some issues with their insurance, their health insurance. You know, as for kind of dropped the ball on everything, and we wanted to be able to provide some guidance for them, because when you're in Holland, Curacao and Aruba always take care of their own. You know, I heard you speaking earlier about how some communities is be united, and you know, we don't ever seem to be. So we wanted to provide an opportunity for St. Martiners to come together, whether it was social events, professional events, just to get the students and you know, closer as a body. And from there, I said, you know, I realized the issue is back home. You know, when I say we, I mean the country was so critical of these students. You know, oh, they're lazy, they're always changing their study, they never finish their study without thinking about, well, what is impacting them up there that it makes it hard for them to finish. And from then I said to Cyril, you know, this could turn into a political movement, a different way of doing things, a professional way of doing politics. And, you know, from then we started kind of, this around 2012, we started collecting people that we thought would have,
wow.
2012, yeah, we started planning. In fact, I even went to my father and I said, hey, I want to start a party or whatever. And he said, don't do it. This politics.
He told me Saturday, he said, he did tell the people that I had no influence.
He had no influence. He had no kind of whatever. And from 2012, we started talking to different people. And then 2019, it seemed like every time we were ready to incorporate the party, government would fall.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, 2019, it looked like it was going to be kind of okay.
Mhm.
We went notary, we went electoral council, we
Took our time.
register, took our time, put together articles. We register. I think the 21st of September, we announced, 21st of September 2019, we announced that we were launching on the 27th.
Correct.
And then boom, that was a Saturday. We announced the Monday government fall.
Oh,
And at the time they called snap elections. And yeah, that was January 2020 was our first election. And
how did you get Raeyhon as your second man though? Because he been there with you from day one.
Yeah.
So how did you connect? How did you guys connect though, Raeyhon?
Well, I was invited to a mutual friend back then to and this was around like after Irma, you know,
Yeah.
because after Irma, remember I was working in Vromi then. I was in domain affairs, and right after Irma, I became the acting head of the domain affairs department. And you know, it was basically just us all hands on deck and trying to get the country back up running. And throughout that time, you know, I had a friend who was also in Vromi, and he said, you know, I'm dealing with this group of young professionals, you know, and we've been around for quite some time. But how you're thinking, how you're moving, it seems like you would fit into this group. But that was just a general suggestion, and I was like, you know what, I'm open for it. You know, why not? And I went. I believe the meeting was somewhere in town.
Yeah.
And you know, we sat, and it was just, you know, a little chat with a couple of people at the table. Melissa was there, of course, Patrice was there, and I remember us just kicking off, and I was like, you know what? There's actually some hope. You know, there's actually a group out there who was seeing what's going on and who want an actual change. And
You were
since
not
then,
afraid though. You were not afraid to join the political party, being already in Vromi. That never.
you know, well, actually, in hindsight, not that I regret it, but because we announced and then government dropped. I don't know if people remember back then, but there was also some issues with, you know, the Ministry of Vromi, etc., etc.
Correct.
So I decided, you know what, if you're about it, then you should do it. You know, you should not be intimidated by any minister or anybody or any political affiliation. If you're here for the people, then you should, you know, stand up. Then you should stand up for what you believe in. And my party at the time, the group at the time, they had my back, and up to now they still have my back. So no regrets.
Melissa, this political party, Party for Progress, have been very successful. You entered in 2019, you got 2 seats. What do you think attributed to your 2 seats?
I think people were ready for something different. I think a lot of our focus on, you know, moving as a team, moving as a unit, you know, that really stood out to folks. When I talk to persons of all walks of life in the community, that is what they focus on. That different approach to how we do politics on St. Martin. And you could see the impact of that even today. Like the other parties have changed their campaign style to kind of match. You know, we started off, I said to everybody, you know, we're going to do these interviews 2 by 2 if we can, because it shows, you know, togetherness. It shows that we supporting each other, we have each other back. And then all of a sudden, now in the last campaign and this campaign, you see other parties also sending 2.
Most people now are sending 2.
2 candidates at a time to you know, provide that support to each other when you're out there, because campaigning is hard. It's tough. It's tough on the body. It's tough on the brain.
You come directly though from a political background. You come from a political background too, Raeyhon?
No, I'm the first politician in my
okay, you're the first politician. So let's go on the PFP, because I have a number of things. You ran in 2009. You know, I got to say this, and this I got to give you credit for. And I know he's listening. He say, BDD, PFPs, because you were well strategized. I was not understanding any rumors after that maybe you got funded from the Dutch and the Dutch government helped you. But however, though, you were well placed on that campaign, on the day of election.
Yeah.
What, and you had St. Martiners around you. Where that came from?
You know, I think a lot of people, and I don't brag about it, but a lot of people forget I studied communications and marketing. Like I business strategy and such. Those are all things that St. Martin sent me away to learn.
Yeah.
So I have applied it in my private life, in my professional life while working in private sector, and I apply it in this life as well. And it's really just about knowing what has not worked. You know, like you say, I come from a political background. I grew up around campaigns for the Democratic Party. I grew up around campaigns for everybody. And I think based on what persons themselves were telling me at my previous job, at other places that I you know, frequent and patronize, they were tired. They're tired of being shouted at from a stage. They're tired of, you know, just the typical me, and not a we kind of approach to politics. And so I said, you know, that is the shift that has to be made. And I think we've done a lot as a party to focus on people and on bringing that difference to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it paid off in 2020 for sure. I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie, because
I mean,
again,
that's about actually.
yeah.
You were
Oh,
surprised.
shocked.
You see,
he could tell you. I
But why
I
were
think
you surprised if you put in the work?
no, because we had just launched in September, ability. I mean,
Yeah.
from September to January, there ain't no
Mhm.
kind of time to let people know, these are
Yeah.
who these people are. And I think that, I went in very, not pessimistic, but very rational.
Okay.
I never, my father always told me, like, think about how many votes you
Yeah.
might get, and then we
70,
see,
30.
we see what the reality is. And I think for that first campaign, I went in very, objective. I said, okay, we brand new.
Mm.
It's been a breakneck campaign. We've done our best, and that's what we always say. We ran the best campaign we could, and it's up to the people. But on the day of election, I think I was there by Sister Marie Laurence, because I live Defiance, and that's where my grandmother used to vote. My grandfather used to vote my entire life, and so I went there to stand up by the school, show support and welcome voters. And somebody was doing an interview. I don't know if it was Prince Martina or someone else, and they asked me, so how much votes you think you're gonna get? And I said, I'll be happy with 50 votes.
Yeah.
Because I went in really moderate, thinking, again, we brand new. I don't know if St. Martin is ready for it, but ultimately the people said, no, we are ready for this type of change.
Your 2 seats that you got in the first election, was there two outright seats, or one was a residual seat?
One was a residual seat. Yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean, the residual seat?
I need a lawyer.
Yeah,
Answer that
go
question.
ahead, Ria. Tell us what that is.
So when you have elections, you have what we call in Dutch the kiesdeler. That means the amount of votes that you need to get one seat.
Correct.
Now, when every time you hit it, you're supposed to get a seat. But when you look at the calculation after election, let's say you had 5 parties and you look at the amount of votes all of them got. If you divide that by the same number that I gave, you would come up to maybe 11, 12 seats if you're looking at the full numbers. But that means that for the extra, you would have to have some type of calculation as to how you're going to issue out the seats, because by the end of the day, 15 seats needs to be allocated for Parliament.
Yeah.
So we received, I think it was the last residual seat.
Okay.
Out of all of them. I think the NA got one, the UP got one, and I believe another party had one. I think it was the USP.
I think so.
And there were 4 residual seats, so we got the 4th one. So we were lucky. But to get the residual seat, you would have to, there's a type of special calculation between the first and the second seat. So you have to mark, you have to hit a specific mark to actually reach to that. Okay, you've reached to this amount, now you can get the residual seat.
Yeah.
But until you reach the actual number for the second seat, that's all you can get. And once you reach that number and you go above it, then you might be able to get the 3rd residual seat.
I gotta get in as a political consultant. I haven't heard nobody explain this residual seat for a long time. Maybe that PFP, Party for Progress. This is my issue with the PFP. You got 2 seats, and you went into opposition. Whereas I always ask myself, but when you get 2 seats, you guys didn't want no ministry. You didn't shove no forward, say, but we want. You just stayed in opposition. Why?
Again, as a new party, and I think that there's a rush to be minister or to get a ministry or so. That's a lot of responsibility.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that we would not have been able to shoulder that responsibility in 2020, but to really stick to what our vision was of learning what it is to be in Parliament, of learning the political arena from the inside then. And also, Parliament is where the power lies. You are the highest legislative body. You have the power to hold the government accountable. That is what ultimately we need, is that persons that are not just willing to run into or dash into a ministry and say, I'm gonna fix everything, or I'm gonna do whatever, but also persons who are willing to sit in the people's representation, because you can't, as a voter, you can't be there every minute questioning the government, etc. You have your life to go about. Our whole job is literally to do that. That is even the Council of Advice, the Ombudsman will all say, one of the most, and former Ombudsman, Dr. Nilda Ardern Lynch, who I have a lot of respect for, has said repeatedly, even to Parliament and in the public arena, the most important task of Parliament is to hold government accountable.
Yeah, we know that, but I want to, this for you to Raeyhon. You came in that PFP wanted to make change. Party for Progress.
Yeah.
You got to see. Why did I was asking myself, why not take a ministry and really make a difference?
I mean, because at the
end of the day, a big difference could be making a ministry.
Yeah.
There you go. You came in brand new and
for sure.
You stayed in opposition.
Yeah, but I think we also were not invited at the time. That coalition formed the static. That don't mean you're getting an invite.
No, but let's give Billy the facts. Let's give Billy the facts. None of those parties approached us. When the last coalition was formed, and I remember exactly how it went, because it was formed 2 days
Who was
after.
the parties? Because I like to know.
The NA and the UP, back then they had 10 seats together,
NA
if I'm
and
not
UP.
mistaken.
Yeah.
And 9 of those candidates signed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, with the exception of Chris.
Chris, okay.
Yes. So once being the characters that we have, kind of look at history. You have some smaller political parties in the past who have, come up, got their first seat and decided, you know what, I'm going to jump in a coalition one time with another party. You also see that those parties that usually ended up in a ship jumping fiasco, which by the end of the day ended up in a snap elections, and those parties were not re-elected. So we did not want to jeopardize the possible future of PFP simply because we wanted to get in and govern. And this is my thing with a lot of politicians these days. We like to come in this campaign time and talk about what we're going to do in the executive branch. You are running to be in parliament. You are running to be a legislator. So you need to understand first how the foundation works. If you don't understand how parliament works, me, for example, I am very thankful that we sat in opposition. Why? Because now, me being now in the Ministry of Roaming with Minister Gumbs, I understand exactly what the dynamic is. But if you want to be a minister, you don't know what Parliament's role is, how Parliament can call you up to Parliament, how Parliament can ask you official questions, how Parliament can come with an inquiry on you, how Parliament can send you home with motions or whatever. If you don't understand that dynamic, then you can come in and think, oh, I gonna run it how I want. But if Parliament doesn't even give you the budget for it, your hands are tied.
Yeah,
so you need to understand the dynamic of government.
And I'm happy that you guys are explaining me this today, because I figure with 2-seat PFP could say, listen, we want to be part of it, but we would love to have this ministry. Not really demanding the ministry, but I'm happy that you, and not much political party did that route. Melissa, is this a plus for where PFP is today, the fact that you sat in a position?
I believe it is. I believe it is because, we had always said from the get-go that whether opposition or coalition, we're going to hold government accountable. But I had a lot to learn as well as a member of parliament, the type of questions to ask, and you can imagine the persons in my background, whether it's from the French side or the Dutch side, saying these are the ways you need to frame these questions, because that is how you get the information that you need to then take it to the next term and say, okay, we know now what was broken, and now we know what we need to focus on. And I think it's definitely been a plus for us, seeing the constellation that we're in now, seeing the ministry that we hold now, and the work that they've been doing since being sworn in to get that, to get what we saw as going wrong to fix it.
Yeah, but you've been in opposition. So what have you been able to achieve? Now, you've been elected in 2019. What have you been able to achieve as a party, as a PFP? Because you say party for progress.
Yeah.
What progress have been made with the PFP since you started?
As opposition, we've brought a couple of motions that I'm happy, to see how persons reacted to them. First of all, in 2020, we had the election, and then we had COVID. The first thing we decided to do as a brand new faction in opposition was propose to cut our salaries as members of parliament and the salaries of the ministers to stand in solidarity with the private sector.
Did that work?
No, the motion failed. But why did it fail? I believe, and I'll maintain it until my end of days, that it failed because they don't want to do that. Because standing in solidarity only goes so far until it makes other people uncomfortable. And then it's like, no, solidarity don't matter. So that motion failed. But what we did focus on is trying to bring about some type of change, for example, in our electoral reform. We provided the decree, the resolution to the Prime Minister that then took the curtain off the voting booth. And some may not say that, look at that as a big thing of electoral reform.
I don't look at that as a big thing.
But it is a small part of electoral reform. There's many different things that can be done, but it's not always going to be, legislation. You got to protect the process of democracy first. And then you can look at how do we legislate different things.
And I blame you for removing the curtain, because I think you remove privacy. I think the curtain is still somebody's privacy.
But we are the only country in the kingdom that have a curtain outside of Aruba.
Yeah, but we don't have to do what the others are doing.
I understand that, but then we can get 1 minute as well. In so and so they have this, and then we want to do that. Sometimes you have to look at what is the good of a place, and you have to see how you can adapt it for here. Everybody still had privacy. I think that to say you're taking away people's privacy it doesn't really jive when you look at how democracy is run on other islands around the world. and most places do not have a
You know,
curriculum or
if
anything like that.
if I was a Dutch citizen, you know, I would have taken the government to court. I would have challenged the government on taking away I would have taken you to court because
Yeah.
you cannot take away my privacy. I need that cotton.
But if your privacy is guaranteed by the side of you,
I
then
know
the
that,
curtain don't
right.
really add to it.
And that's what I think they have jurisprudence. And in other parts of the kingdom, they tried it as well. But I can tell you, for example, I used to live in Groningen when I was studying, and I remember I had to vote once by the gemeente, and it was through like an electrical booth, as in just outside, standing in a booth, and there were people around me, and the options just popped up, and I had to basically click who I wanted to vote for. So it's kind of a nuanced discussion, but I do agree. You know, some people are of the sentiment that, you know, yes, my privacy was violated.
Yeah.
Some other people was telling us, listen, this kind of like stops all this vote buying that I remember
You
going on.
believe it stop? You believe it stop it, Melissa?
I think it shifted it.
It shifted.
to elsewhere.
it had to shift it, yeah.
Hold on. I like this though. You shift it elsewhere, meaning it still could go on.
Yeah, but that's what I say. It's a small change, Billy.
Yeah.
The change is not going to. You're not going to fix electoral reform in one term. You're not going to fix it with one decree, one resolution. It takes, as others have said, having those conversations, and also it takes other members of parliament and governments willing to fix it.
You know, good or bad, and I congratulate this party because you came in banging, you stood there, you maintained. However, though, Raeyhon, what could the PFP brag about today since you've been in office? What could you brag about that have changed the small man's life?
You know, I get that question a lot, Billy, and I always have the same answer. You know, everybody that paid attention to the last 4 years, here are some facts. PFP has the most questions officially asked out of any faction. PFP has presented motions. PFP has presented LBHAM. PFP has numerous amendments. You know, so but because you're opposition, we also need to understand the dynamics of politics. I remember that we proposed a motion to take back the Mullet Bay land.
You did?
Yes, we presented a motion to use the National Ordinance for expropriation to take back said land that we now have so much issues with. But guess what? It was shut down. Same with the salary. It was shut down by the then coalition. And this is not to say that, okay, because your opposition means you can't do anything, but you can understand that if you're asking questions, by the end of the day, you just don't get answers. You just don't get your meetings called. Then they put you in a corner because, of course, Parliament rules by majority. Parliament is a body. There are no parties.
Unfortunate, though. It's unfortunate because, yes, I know when you brought a lot of things that made sense, but never, you just come up and boom, it went down.
Exactly. So the same politicians that are now telling us, but you guys did nothing, I tell them, but I am holding you accountable for that because you were part of that decision-making process.
You didn't do what I asked you to do.
Exactly. So, of course, if you have, my power in your hands, and not because you have my power in your hands, but because Parliament as a majority has the power, then you need to understand the dynamic of that as well. We were never in a coalition, but we voted for the budget multiple times. Why? Because we saw that even though there's politics, there's also the business of the people. And your budget right as parliamentarians is the most important exercise that you have to go through. So if you don't approve for the government to actually spend money, then the government is not allowed to. But so we decided then, even though we're opposition, even though none of the other coalition parties have ever voted yes for a budget whilst being in opposition, we said, looking at political maturity, we want to do what's right for the country. And we expected that once we have that approach, that when we came with our concerns, for example, the Mullet Bay saga, that they would then, you guys helped us out, we helped you out. Why? Because it's all for the country, not for ourselves.
So you guys would say today that you brought motion, you brought things to Parliament, but never passed because you was in opposition.
I believe so.
Is that a way to go, though, Melissa?
No, I think that it showed us as well that no good deed goes unpunished, and that not everybody. I think we assumed people would have the same mentality, especially when it came to COVID and the handling of that entire situation. I think we assumed, incorrectly so, that people would have that same kind of approach to there is no sacrifice for us personally that's too great for St. Martin. And that's really the issue. And then I think, we tried our best as well to do things and opt for things that would lead to better scenarios and a better way of life for the small man. An example, when you talk about access to funding, access to different relationships with different islands or different countries, even access to right over here. We brought a proposal in 2021, I believe, to cancel Parlatino, for example. The as they say in Dutch, a sweet trip. It's just a pleasure trip,
Correct,
basically.
correct.
You know, that we've been going to now for over 14 years. We said, cancel that. Take that membership money and that travel money. Try channel it into other things like the OECS. Try channel it into better relationship development with the
I gotta hold
collectivity.
it. Let me bring you back real quick. Channel it into the OECS.
Yeah.
Did you say that to the Parliament of Somalia?
It was
They
a,
didn't understand what you said?
it was a proposal. I could bring you a copy if you would like.
I am for not canceling Parlatino, killing it dead. It's no sense in Parlatino. It's a waste trip.
So we
100%
proposed
But
that.
I remember somebody saying that somebody did propose taking the money, putting it in the OECS.
Yes.
It was PFP.
It was PFP. We proposed, it was a whole, I think it was about 4 or 5 pages or so.
Yeah.
I wrote out the reasoning why. I said, even if you look at it as for the Dutch side, Saba and Stacia, we don't do no real type of relationship development with them. And they are as close to us as anybody else.
You were focused on the French
Right
side too?
here. In Parliament, I had to sit down and listen to people talk about how, well, maybe we should stop containers from going to the collectivité and see how they're going to like that during COVID. And I say, are you mean to say we're going to starve out brothers and sisters in the North because you feel a way about, you know, a border check in the time of a pandemic? Like, those are the things that we try to shy away from and to bring people back to. Look, I never boycott no Simande celebration for no personal reason. You understand? So for me, I'm like, these are the ways you want to talk about building relationships. You want to talk about changing the life of people. Let's talk about how we engage with the collectivity. Let's talk about tax harmonization. Let's talk about how everybody talks about we're going to bring this tax, bring that tax. And there's certain things you cannot do on one side without doing it on the other side. And in the 90s gasoline disaster, like what we had, when everybody started rushing over to the French side to tank up because we hit a tax on gasoline on the Dutch side.
Yeah. Today you have a ministry. You have the Ministry of Roaming, and I think I got to congratulate Patrice because he has been very vocal and active on issues that are happening. Is that ministry working properly now? Is it in motion?
I'll answer that one.
And hold on, I gotta say this, Raeyhon, and in your defense, you were supposed to be this minister,
Yes.
and all kind of thing happened. And you're right. I gotta say, I saw what I saw, and there was no reason for you not to be minister of Roaming.
Yeah, you know, and I think that's why we were very transparent about, you know, not only being the Minister of Roaming, but also when it came to my screening.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we publicized our documents. We gave it to the Daily Herald because PFP literally works with transparency. We have nothing to hide. You know, there's nothing to uncover. This is what we are. And you know, when it comes to Vromi, I do want to commend Vromi for all the hard work we have been putting down, but to be honest, we are not there yet.
Yeah.
We are still missing SG. We're still missing critical department heads. We're still missing a lot of staff. But this is how we encountered the ministry. Because if you think back in 2021, we had actually one of the few motions that we as opposition proposed and that was actually passed was a motion of disapproval for the former minister. Why? Because back then, even the ombudsman basically said in the report that what he did was corruption. But within that
You're
motion,
talking about the RAN.
yes, sir.
Okay.
And within that same motion of disapproval, had one condition, and one of that was to bring forward a land policy. Why? Because there's going to reach a point where at some point the judges are going to say you cannot give off land anymore.
Yeah.
That happened last year. Last year, the judge said, you know what? Until there's a clear, concise policy in place for land allocation,
Can't give land.
can't give it, period. But we proposed that in our motion since 2021. That was a past motion. So that's to show you that even though you as an opposition party get to reach to the point to get the coalition, actually Parliament to agree to pass such a motion where we are now instructing the minister to put a policy in place, otherwise the people are going to suffer from it. Even then, motion passed, a lot of publicity. The first motion of disapproval for Martin, very nice. 2-3 years after, the judge had to sound the alarm. Why? Nothing was done. So when we talk about accountability, it's not only having debates and, you know, putting people in check. No, it's about looking at what you've been doing as well, your track record. That, not doing that these last couple of years, have us now in a situation where we are now faced with everybody wanting to request land but cannot get it. Why? We now need to make that policy.
Yeah.
So it shows you character when you leave certain people in minister positions by their actions. And
but is this a minister decision, or is
yes,
the minister that makes this
100%. 100%. The minister is the one who has to make the policy. 100% by law, according to the Long Lease Ordinance. And the judge even said so. We have just not done it. We have just decided, let's put that in the backseat and let's continue giving out big building permits with no checks and balances. And let's, after elections, still try to give some of our people some land in the hopes that when Raeyhon Peterson comes in to Vromi as the Minister of Vromi, he will quickly make a policy.
That's right.
And then once he makes that policy, I can then tell all of my people here, you know what? You can still go and get it deeded now. It was fixed. That is what's happening.
The minister giving land to who he wants. Is that at the minister's discretion? Do he need approval to do that?
So clearly not. No. Back then, if you had asked me this question last year, Billy, for example, I would have told you yes. The ministry.
You would give a piece of land.
Exactly. And whether or not that's part of good governance, or if that's against good morals and ethics, that's a whole nother question. But as a minister, you had what we call the dictionary your authority to give land. But last year, the judge sounded the alarm. The judge said, no, St. Martin, your laws are too loose. You cannot just go down that route and say, oh, because I am the minister and because the long list ordinance does not say that I need to go through the section balance means that you don't have to. You have to create a fair and transparent process for everybody in St. Martin to have, what we call an equal chance. Equal chance for them to get. Why? Because when you give off land as a minister, you're not just giving him a decree. You are giving somebody rights to build on government property. That is a government asset. You understand? So you need to understand where it comes from. So now, after the judge said that, I can tell you no. As a minister, you cannot. Because guess what? Patrice, I can advise Patrice now to give somebody a piece of land. When that person goes to the notary is now going to tell you, no, I am not going to deed this. This is a new issuance of land. You cannot get it done. And you can support us or not support us all you want when it comes to that decree. But the notary, but the notary is the one who actually has to get it deeded. If you don't get your piece of land deeded, you're not going to get it. Period. And that's the law.
Minister, if you continue to get 2 seats and there's always an opposition, then this means the PFP wouldn't shine?
No, I mean, I think the goal is never to just stay with 2 seats.
2 seats,
the
but
goal is to grow.
You get 8 seats now because you cannot continue to function like this. And I was mad at you guys in the beginning, big time, because you got 2 seats and you're not looking for ministry.
Right.
And everybody looks for ministry. I'm understanding now, but here we go. We got election August 19th. What are you looking for?
We're looking to grow, most definitely. 3, 4 seats, whatever the people, at the end of the day too, is up to the people.
Correct.
And we've been asking the people since last election, we would love to grow to 3, 4, 5 seats, whatever they deem fit to give us.
Correct.
And the focus has always been on focusing on the ministries that we have asked our questions about
and are the most problematic,
because that is really what it boils down to. I think what Ray also neglected to mention is the fact that Vromi is operating now with about 23 vacancies. So it's also that you do not have the people. And I'm not saying either that capacity is just a question of bodies to fill spots. Capacity is also an issue of competency. Do you have the right people in the ministries to fill those spots?
You see, but this is where you go again. If we don't have the right person, where do we find people? We got to go to Holland?
I don't think so. I think you've had people go out for positions in ministries, because I've heard it from locals, from Martinez as well. People living here, people working here, people doing very well in their private sector job or so. And you either don't hear back, or you're made to jump through a couple hoops, or it takes forever after you get hired. So you're like, I can't go 9, 10 months waiting to start something, and I have bills to pay and I have things to cover. And so basically, I think we've just, from an HR perspective, there's a lot of work that has to get done, and none of that
you're now leading the Vromi department.
Yes, I'm the chef of the cabinet.
Yes, chef of the cabinet. So you're saying there's a number of vacancies. Are you talking about that so the senators will get a job?
Oh no, 100%. And we are putting out some. We put out some vacancies already. Of course, given the budget constraints, even though we have, for example, I think it's about 30-something vacancies, but we only have enough budget for a couple. You see that's also another thing. You can come into a ministry, but if you don't understand how the ministry works, how the budget works, then you can have good ideas. But at the end of the day, if P&O tells you, but that's not possible. Yes, but this person is already there. HR, human resources. So if you don't understand that, then you're always going to hit a snag. Now with Vromi, for example, what we have been doing is we have been trying to fill in those critical positions. But what we have gotten, as a sentiment in Vromi now is that, what, guys, the dynamic has changed, environment has changed. We now want to work, because morale was at an all-time low. About 20-something people quit within the last 4 years. And this is something that's not mentioned a lot.
They quit for what? Pressure?
whatever personal reason that they had, they quit the organization of Romy. A lot of them have mentioned that management was the biggest issue for them. And I'm not going to, speculate on that. I'll let them talk about that themselves. But the reason as to why we lost so many people is simply because we did not give them the attention that they deserve. So now that we are in there and I'm back and I'm seeing my old colleagues, I'm seeing new colleagues, and they are telling me, listen, what you guys are doing is different. You guys are actually listening to the department instead of coming in with your very specific demands and actually not looking at how the ministry is supposed to run. Yeah. Our back then, Louis Brown, he was fired. He was fired because the judge deemed that firing. But why do you subject the ministry and one to that type of scrutiny because you have an opinion? It don't matter, because guess what? The whole ministry is going to suffer. Yeah. But that's where nepotism and actual good governance, it clashes. To my opinion.
But then, Melissa and Raeyhon, and I keep repeating this. We don't have a Netherlands problem. We have a St. Martin problem.
Yes.
I'm glad you don't want to say it before they gotta come here.
I'm happy that you guys are here because you could hear a lot of things about people all over the place, but I don't want to speculate. This election is all about speculation. I'm hearing things that the PFP did that I didn't hear before, but then you need more than you need 8 seats.
And that's the goal. I mean, anybody. I don't know if that's gonna happen right now in our political culture, but as many seats as possible to put us in a position where we can focus on the things that we have seen gone wrong, especially in that last 4-year term. And we're also now focusing on the things that we would like to see with the ministries that we don't have, but that we definitely have a sort of affinity for. We're in good contact with the Minister of Finance now, trying to push for this resolution to regulate how government does its tendering, because right now government tendering is well, you have an idea, and I have one too. So the three of us going to do our idea and our ministry, and that's how it goes. And that's not how it should go. The law says you got to regulate it. The law is saying that. We're not saying that because of any political thing now. Yeah. We're saying that because that's what the law demands. And if government is not going to obey the law.
And I remember, Melissa, not to cut you off, but when we proposed this exact issue in Parliament back then, when we was in opposition, of course, we had the Minister of Finance in front of us. The man literally told me then, I don't think St. Martin needs any more financial regulations. Yeah. And I told the minister, I didn't ask for your opinion. The law says before you guys tender anything, you should have a decree that regulates how that goes so that the people can know what the process is. That's what it's about. It's not about you feeling that we have too many checks and balances. Yeah. If the law already says that that's necessary, then it's not for you to decide. You're a minister. You should execute. And if these clear differences of opinion came into fruition the longer we sat in opposition, because like I said, the first 2 years I voted for the budget. The last 2 years I voted against out of principle. And that's just to show that there was a switch in how I saw what, to my opinion, was the House of Parliament. 15 of us, no colors, working for the country. COVID had hit, we were all hands on deck. And then the politics came into play. Exactly. Yeah, and then when we proposed something, it was shot down. But when they proposed something very similar, it was passed. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to play this game with IU. Now it's about accountability. Now it's about criticizing everybody, scrutinizing everybody and every ministry. Because now, for example, I'm looking around and I'm seeing big campaign boards, and you see everybody coming with the same things. We bring in tax reform. We bring in affordable housing. We bring in this. How do you go about these things? I see people talking about affordable housing. How are you going to go about it? You need the Ministry of Romy. Is there going to be an expedited process in the permits? Yeah. PPP, a public-private partnership, or are we going to tender it? If we're going to tender it, where is the equipment we're speaking about? It's going to be private land. It's going to be government land. Yeah. So none of these actual discussions as to how you do these projects are being had. No, they're just being put on billboards and let people read them, and hopefully people fall into
So what are you campaigning on now, Melissa? What is the PFP campaign? You saw what they have on their billboard. What do you have on your billboard?
Oh, well, we don't have
no promises.
We don't have no promises on our billboard.
What do you have? What are you saying? Why vote for you?
What we're saying is the same manifesto that we campaigned on last time, and I wish I had a printed copy. Just in January. We were getting printed copies. I didn't have one to bring for you, but I will drop it off again when we do have them. The same focus that we had last time, which is improving financial accountability in government, regulating how your money is spent, because that I think too is what people don't realize. When all of these things
it's people's money.
All these promises are made, it's your money.
Yeah.
When we proposed to cut our salaries, it wasn't because we looked at it as our money now. That's taxpayer money.
Correct.
That we were trying to put back into whatever and wherever it had to go. And I think the reaction very much is like, but this is my money and it's my money to spend. No. That money is the people's money. That's the private sector's money. That's everybody who gets up, whether it's 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 3 a.m., they go to the first job, second job, third job. That is the money that you are spending.
Yeah. I understand you guys' politics. I'm
Yeah.
understanding you guys' politics. But in St. Martin, the man on the street want to know, Raeyhon, that's what's in it for him. But how would the PFP is going to make my life better?
Yeah.
And you know, and this is what I ask you all too.
Yeah.
Do you believe in 10-10-10? Has 10-10-10 changed the dynamic?
Before I answer that, I want to go back to what you said. Everybody says the small man doesn't understand. I think we don't give the small man enough credit to understand what we have been trying to do to make their life better. To make their life better ain't no grand thing now. It's no big flashy things have to happen. It's small changes like fixing how government spends their money.
Yeah.
That's it. Because if you control better how government spends their money, then you don't lose money.
Correct.
You don't miss money, and there's more to put into social aid. There's more to put into changing policies and legislation that does impact their pocket and their bottom line. And I think we just too much say, break it down to the small man to understand. I think they know very well that the issue that they face is a money issue.
Yeah, but we have a parliament today. And when I listen to you guys, we see the top level of laws and legislation. But you hear Parliament pass a law, you hear Parliament pass a motion.
Yeah.
But then it stays there.
Yeah, nothing happens.
It doesn't come on Front Street.
No,
it doesn't come on Back Street.
Yeah.
It don't go Dutch Quarter. I
Enforcement.
want to hear that you pass a legislation that wins Dutch Quarter and teach Dutch Quarter people, citizen big people. That's what I want to hear.
You see, Billy, I'm glad you mentioned that because we have a lot of politicians who are actively campaigning on what we call legislation. That they're bringing more than 20 initiatives, etc., etc. I can tell you, Billy, that last term, that while we was in Parliament, not one initiative law was presented by any member of Parliament, and not one initiative law was passed. So we have not proposed, not one initiative law was passed that last term in Parliament, regardless of how many proposals that we heard were sent, etc., etc. These are the facts. Not one initiative came to us as a body of Parliament to vote on and was passed. Period. So all of this campaigning about we brought laws. Like you said, laws do not fix problems.
No.
Executing laws does. So to think that Parliament, that we as a body of Parliament came in to government and we had an abundance of laws that we needed to fix, that is a misconception of the truth. That is a lie. We, as a part of the Dutch Kingdom, we have one of the most secure codified legal systems in the world. So if you look at our laws, like for example, we're talking about the law about the tendering. The law already says it's supposed to be there. It's already there. So we have to execute. We have to do our job as an executive branch. And when the ministers cannot understand what their role is and understand that their job is not to come out here and give licenses to people. No, your job is to come in and execute a certain policy that's been in the backseat for 10 years.
And I'm happy you said something that I want to touch with this with you, because in this election, again, you hear that one individual give taxi license, 100 taxi license. How could you be the minister of, let's say, TIAD, wherever that falls on, and somebody in your cabinet could do that?
Exactly.
How is that possible?
Exactly. Mismanagement, really, because here you come back to how does a ministry work? Because you have a lot of people that are coming outside and say, yeah, we're going to do this, and the VSI we want me to be prime minister. How do these ministries work? What are the departments within these ministries? And what you said right there is just a department issue. You have the Department of Licenses.
When I hear that one person in the ministry give out 100 taxi licenses, for me, the minister's signature got to be on it.
Exactly.
Does the minister know exactly the cahoot that is?
No, you're absolutely right. And I
administration.
think that when I go back to what I said earlier, where it is small changes like just better management that would actually trickle down and impact the average person in the
Is
country.
the PFP message being, as you guys are maintaining your seats in Parliament, but how much is your message being able to come across the people?
I think persons are getting the message, and the feedback I've gotten since May 20th, since May 20th, is people are frustrated. They first of all are frustrated that you had a government that was sworn in and then 17 days later was dropped and then put together again, whatever it stands at now, as a demissionaire government. People are frustrated because they view that as just power plays and just a power hungry kind of determination from others. I think people are getting the message. The feedback I've gotten from persons I know not support his party over the last 2 elections is now completely switching. It's changing. And I think it's just sometimes you just have to repeat, you have to explain. And we don't have no problem talking to anybody to explain to them, guys, it ain't even about legislation, as Ray said. We have one of the best codified systems in the kingdom. Execution. It is about making sure that there's money there to execute. When persons come in, they tell me, you know, you have a particular part of the community, they want to see animal protection laws. You know, you arrest people who mistreat animals, etc. Okay, is there money to execute that? They use comparisons of bigger countries, the states, etc. But they have whole police departments dedicated to animal protection. Federal money. You understand? So it's a different thing. And I think we do people we do them wrong when we don't explain, because everybody likes to, how you say, I think hoard knowledge. They talk the fancy game, the melee game. And then, but in the one-on-ones and in the nitty-gritty of it, they just hold that knowledge for themselves on how things are actually supposed to run.
You see that right there, what Melissa just said, Billy, that for me is one of the biggest issues, because we've always been keen on education, and not the Ministry of Education, but education of the people. Because every time I hear, but you got to break it down for the small man, I can tell you, I've been out there, and from the biggest businessman to the smallest man, supposedly, they get it. They understand it. I have had somebody who came to me and was like, Ray, I haven't worked for 3 years, but I know what's going on now. And all I want is for you to do it right. When I went to this politician and I asked him what would it take for me to ask for this type of license, he told me, don't worry, I'll take care of it for you. I don't want you to take care of it for me so that then you can come and ask me something, show me the way.
Teach a man to fish and all of that.
And this is what we have been trying to push in Parliament, not only now, but these last 4 years as well.
So how important is not only our Parliament, how important is our our government, how important is our government in this country?
Management, Billy. Let me tell you something. Last time we were in opposition. This time we're in the coalition, and I can tell you that the buck is by the ministers. That's where it is. You can't misplace it. They are the ones who need to lead. They are the ones who need to lead, period. And lead not only when it comes to the country, but legislation as well. Correct. A very common misconception is that Parliament has to lead when it comes to legislation. No. The people of St. Martin choose 15 individuals to represent them. When it comes to legal affairs, when it comes to the whole process of how a law is established, when it comes to having lawyers to work with you, Parliament don't have that. Parliament only has the SGs as assistants, but we don't have an official body that looks at our laws. Government does. So if you are a responsible parliamentarian, you know that is there for good governance. You cannot even think that you as a person possess the knowledge to bring a law forward that is actually the job of a whole ministry and a whole cabinet to do. Because then you are basically saying, oh, well, my ego is enough for me to write up something. And because I'm a parliamentarian, I have the right of initiative, means it has to pass. No, because once you do that, and we have seen that in the past, you get the Council of Advice coming to tell you, listen, this law you presented, this is wrong with it, this is wrong with it, this is wrong with it. And actually, we propose you to not send it through. But nobody tells you the results of these proposals. They only tell you, oh, I got an initiative going on.
Follow up.
But we have right now about 130 initiatives that have over the years that have not been followed up on, and most likely will not be followed up on, because that's Parliament. That's reality. So if you want to add on to that without actually doing something, then go ahead.
People are paid well in this position to do their job.
I agree.
Why vote for you now, though? Why vote for you? Why give you that chance in Parliament? We're on our buzzer too. Why give you a chance to be in Parliament again?
To be honest, really, I think that by now everybody knows that with me, you get the truth. I've been very vocal, and not only on social media, but also outside, about my willingness to debate everybody that at some point, at this point in time,
Duran said he won't debate you.
Because apparently to him, I didn't pass my screening, but I think you can now explain to him a little bit better that is not an excuse.
I'm going to tell Duran now, I saw your pass.
Okay,
you did pass.
Yeah.
Somebody asking for the debate.
I mean, I'm here for it, and for me, it's very simple. We look at the political field in St. Martin, and we like to compete, we like to fight. But by the end of the day, there's 130 something of us that want to be an MP. Correct. If you want to be an MP, all of us at some point need to come together and understand this is the mission. Your mission as another opposition cannot be a different mission than mine. If you're in government, cool, because you can make decisions, you can do projects. If you want to be in Parliament, there is one job: represent the people. That is what Article 44 of the Constitution says. That's it. So unless you are coming to me with that motivation, then don't talk to me, because you're not taking it serious. People think that being in parliament, being a minister means it's a popularity contest. No, guys, it is a job, a rigorous job. And guess what? If you're not ready for it, you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to embarrass yourself. You understand? And you need to fill yourself. You need to fill your cabinet, surround yourselves with people who have the right mindset as well. Not people who want to use you to maybe get a piece of land by the end of the day. Not people who you want around because they're going to vote for you. No, put the right people for the right positions.
We do things illegally. We do a lot of things.
100%.
I think
illegally.
And I want to make a point here. Sorry to cut you off, Billy, but I think illegally, and this is something that has been said to me about a previous minister, where it was like, well, he didn't do anything illegal. I said, but you know, he did something unethical, which means it was not right.
Yeah.
Some things may not be illegal, like point blank, but they're unethical. Correct. And that matters, you know, that might matter more than even the legality of things, because unethical stuff allows you to kind of skate between the lines and say, well, you know, was it wrong? But it's wrong.
Correct. Anything
that has a long-lasting impact, any decision, etc., that's made from an unethical perspective, it's gonna have an impact on people later on down the line.
Correct. Why good for you, Melissa?
I think people, like Ray said, have come to expect the truth from me. I've never tried to sugarcoat it. I believe that for people to make informed decisions and for people to hold their own government and their parliament accountable, they need to have the facts. They don't need to have no sugar-coated kind of comforting lie, you know, somebody stroking your hair and saying it's going to be okay. Sometimes you need to be honest and say it's going to be rough, it's going to be tough, but at the end of the day, the Party for Progress is here to tell you the truth and to carry you through with the truth.
Yeah, I love the name Party for Progress. Could you say you have made progress, not as a party, but progress in the community?
I believe we have. I believe we have. You know, I think we always get this kind of accusation of we don't see our look. I don't believe a camera got to follow me everywhere. I don't believe a camera got to follow me when I'm picking up a rock or cleaning up a neighborhood or whatever, or when I'm doing work with people in the community. But it is there, and I think the people who know, and they carry our name forward with that. So I think that we made progress on not just the things in politics that we would like to do, but the things privately that we are passionate about. You know, pushing for education, pushing for persons to be more focused on what is the reality. You know, I've been blessed over the last 4 years to do a lot of work with youth parliament. All of those kids I admire very much. And let me tell you, if we would listen to the young people more, that 16-year-old to 25-year-old demographic, I think if 16-year-olds could vote in this country, the composition of parliament look very different.
So you're saying we should listen to young people more?
Most definitely. Listen, I was the chairperson of the integrity committee in parliament, right? I brought an updated code of conduct, which is something the parliament itself motioned itself to do in compliance with how it usually is in a parliamentary democracy years ago. We're talking 2014. So, okay, there needs to be a code of conduct. It has never been passed. I brought it. Everybody tell me you got to make it look more like us culturally. But I did. I looked at Trinidad's act because they legislate their codes of conduct for their MPs and their ministers. I looked at St. Kitts. And when I was reading them, I literally had to pick and choose because I said, this is too strict. This is going to never fly in St. Martin because our politicians ain't ready for that. I understand those types of things, but the rest of them do not. Parliament helped me write this draft code of conduct. In one of the meetings, I said, one of them said, okay, so what's going to happen if they break the code of conduct? I think she was maybe 14 or 15. I said, well, you know, we have to discuss what kind of sanctions, what kind of consequences we could put in place. She said, I think they should go to jail. I said, okay. I said, first of all, we can't go to jail for breaking a code of conduct, but that is what they expect of us.
Correct.
Yep.
That's to tell you what they expect of us.
To
hold ourselves accountable. So I always say, listen to those. I listen to them more than I tend to listen to persons my own age or older than me because they are seeing things differently than I saw things when I was 16.
And at some of the point, and you're right, we're going to have to adjust to what young people are saying. If we want to go to society, they are viewing something different.
Exactly.
And their behavior is
much different. Much different.
What's the PFP stand on violence, especially what we've seen lately, gun violence?
Oh no, we definitely oppose it. I think we have always said. I even asked questions actually to the Minister of Justice a few weeks before this unfortunate scenario we find ourselves in now. Questions about the weapons dealership that was issued, that permit that was issued, to see, and also to ask what is being done to curb the illegal weapons that are coming in. Look, the reality is we live on an island. It ain't nothing for somebody to land a dinghy somewhere on the coast and bring in guns. You understand? That is the reality of the Caribbean, not just in Martin. but there has to be tighter controls on land and at sea to make sure that those things don't happen. So I've asked the Minister of Justice these questions. He told me that the answers were sent, so probably today, Tuesday, I will get them in Parliament, so I can then see what the response was and what are the plans coming out to curb the gun violence that we see happening in the country right now.
Yeah, and it's also good to mention on that, Billy. You know, we talk about the gun violence, but the human aspect of it always gets put in the back seat because it's very reactive. But who has to go after, you know, this violence? Who has to fix it? Our cops, you know, our authorities. And, you know, we've had questions as well in the past, you know, looking at how are these cops, you know, insured? It's everything in order for them to actually come out and, you know, be who we want them to be, because we expect them to be superheroes.
Yeah.
But we see what's going on. Videos are picking up what's going on. And I'm telling you, if this is where we're reaching in St. Martin, we need to sound the alarm, because we are a very small island. And I believe up to yesterday, again, another incident, you know, so it's now with, you know, what's happening, and it's kind of borderline becoming political.
Yeah.
We cannot, you know, forget that it is not about politics. It is about humans.
Yeah,
you understand? It's about violence, and we got to prioritize it, not as, you know, a government or a parliament, but you know, as a whole community.
I do a lot of interviews, and with all due respect to everybody that I talk to, this country is not getting better.
Yeah.
We are not getting better. When I talk to you or somebody else, St. Martin is not getting better. Because don't forget, the problem that we have today, tomorrow there's going to be another problem.
Yeah.
But if we can't solve the problem from yesterday,
How are we going to move forward?
and it all boils down, Ray and Melissa, I don't like you. I don't want what you do. I'm going to make you shine. Where are we going with this attitude?
Yeah.
Because again, I love your laws and your legislation, but and I love the smart man on the street that he's eager to vote for you, but he's also eager to know, but when is my life going to change?
Yep.
Yeah.
When is something going to happen that it could trickle down to me? You know,
Intangible,
you know, when
yeah.
I walk, I was on Front Street the other day. When I look at the disaster on Front Street, that used to be look at Front Street.
Yeah.
We have a hospital started in 2014. We have an airport start to rebuild, to reconstruct.
The faces of St. Martin is what you're
And
talking about.
there's still in a disaster. And you know, we keep hearing about.
And I think that goes back to what I said about management, you know, and the airport is something I always take a very different approach to, because everybody, you know, talks about the airport, etc. Like, it's been under construction. The airport has been under construction since 2022. It's been under construction since 2022 because the financing was only signed off in October 2021. And if you go back and you look at the parliament meetings from 2018, from the setting up of the NRPB, from the trust fund, etc., it was political interference, because nobody wanted this money to be the money financing. We wanted to look for money Belize, we want to look for money Honduras, China, etc. Money that, sad to say, will usually come with no type of checks and balances.
But conditions.
And I think we have to be real with, and that's why I say you got to be honest with people. And sometimes, you know, when I'm honest with persons that stop me in the street and ask me questions, they look at me like, okay, but then they say, you know what, I appreciate it, because it may not be what you want to hear, but it is what you need to hear. And I think that's what we need to get towards in St. Martin. So I always tell people the airport started this reconstruction in 2022, because they push, then they kick out of government, and then guess what? You still have.
So you said the airport only got 2 years in construction.
Yeah,
Officially.
financing was signed off October 2021.
Yeah.
You saw them there sitting and smiling, signing off the deal, the same deal that they spent a year challenging and saying, oh, but is this the right thing for St. Martin?
That's when they wanted to fire the last CEO, and they bring him to parliament, and done it, and they MPs went down to the airport. All the show.
So I think we have never been about the games. We've just been about telling you the truth. Sometimes we may say it in a funny way or a sarcastic way, but either way, it's the honesty that you get in.
I love the truth, but my fear today with having a great interview with you guys, we're going back in parliament for you to be in opposition.
No. To make it abundantly clear, just like last time.
100%. He
No,
wants to know that Raeyhon is going to have a say. A real say.
Just like last time, we were telling persons leading up to January, we are pushing for government. That is our focus right now. We are in coalition now with one ministry. With more seats, we can push for more ministries.
Exactly.
And that is always the goal.
We
The
sat
goal
in
is
opposition and we learned.
We learned for 4 years,
Yeah.
but you know, much like with school, we graduated, and
Yeah.
the graduation will continue.
Exactly.
You got, what was your last count in votes, Melissa?
I don't even know. I don't keep track of those.
You know,
things.
you keep track of where we are?
I had
You got-
about 250 something
Yeah,
votes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were close to 400 votes.
For-
For something.
For something, I think, yeah.
Almost
One thing I
500.
got to say though, no matter what, a PFP is maintaining its presence, but people want a little more than presence now.
For
People want to
Yeah.
to know that if you're the minister of roaming, what's going to happen? How are you going to outline that? What you're going to do?
Yeah.
Because everybody has, and they can say everybody's saying about legislation and motion, and yeah, but where does that go to?
Exactly.
What's
And-
the end of that road?
And I'm excited, Billy D, because even though we have elections in a month, the change in government is not going to come that fast. So we are going to be in office at least, let's say, till September, October. And trust me,
You're going to see
PFP
something.
Yes, exactly. PFP has me right now, and within the first 100 days, within the first 100 days, we are going to bear results, and you can compare it with the last 4 years, and then the people for themselves can decide.
Let me ask
We'll put
you,
it on paper.
You got the right to do things in that transition period.
Yes.
Yes, had it at some point.
Yes, 100%. Because when your priority is not to bring in new projects and
Okay.
newcomers, but basically fix what is there
Yeah.
and actually fix the foundation that is now fully cracked.
Mhm.
If you're ready to do that, then you don't need to shine to bring in new projects and bring in new people with new money.
Caretaker
There's-
government has to take care.
You have to
of what
take
is
care.
theirs.
So
Exactly.
you still can't take a
Con-
government.
Yeah.
What is your
continuity.
relationship? What are you guys' relationship with people in parliament? Your colleagues in parliament. What are your relationship? Did you believe that the 2x4 government would have lasted?
I think it could have, and this is I was waiting for you to get to this. So for 4 years we managed to hold the door shut on everybody that was trying to break it down for us to drop that.
Say
down.
it how it is, Melissa. They approached us on multiple occasions. They offered me to be the minister of Romy back then.
I
They
think they
offered
offered me prime
Melissa to
minister.
be the prime minister. These are facts, guys. These are facts. And
To throw down
reason-
government.
Yes, to throw down government to change the dynamics, to use their words. We said, very simple, guys. We are not here to play the games. COVID just hit. Stability is not just a word. You need to actually embody it. So if we can hold down the fort while you do what you have to do, so be it. We will even support you in some ways with the budget, etc. But what we're not going to do is compromise.
Yeah.
Period. And that's basically how we got to this point.
Yeah. And I think persons, when they ask me, did you think it would have lasted? I think, like I said, if nobody is jumping anywhere, nobody is leaving anywhere, if there's not someone else's hand for them to take. And I said that to the persons that approached me, even on the floor of parliament.
Billy, how they got the current NP to jump ship, as they call it, they came to us with the exact same arguments, the exact same fake paperwork, and the exact same lies. And
You know what I don't like?
And this
the
is
only
my
thing I don't
witness.
like Ray. I don't like they. Who's they?
The other 7,
The other 7.
yes,
Yes.
whoever
That's
signed
not-
on with him, I blame all of
Yeah,
them.
Okay.
To me, it is one group. And in hindsight, since we spoke about Parlatino, if we had canceled Parlatino last term, this wouldn't even have happened. This happened in Brazil.
I got you. Melissa, thank you so much, Raeyhon. Thank you. I think, though, that the PFC should speak a little more. I think your communication should be a little more so people could understand.
Yes.
I'm afraid, though, because your level of politics, I don't know if the people is ready to understand that.
I think that they
And that's
are,
another
and I,
schooling we got
for sure. And we are here for it. We look, this we started in 2019 with the intention to spend
run-
2 years, because our next election was supposed to be 2022,
Mhm.
to spend 2 years meeting with the people, educating the people, in the style that we have become accustomed to.
Yeah.
We did not expect an election in 2020, but we have been doing our best to continue to do that side mission of bringing the people information about how the political system actually works.
Yeah.
Even if I got to do it one by one, I'm willing to do it. I have the energy to do it, and we have been doing it.
Yeah.
And I think more and more persons are waking up and they're realizing that this can't continue.
Because I
This-
think that a lot of injustice was done to the people when we switched to 10-10-10. The people were not involved. The politicians have not explained to people what we're going into.
Agreed.
Exactly.
That's a mistake.
I agree with
agree.
you.
That's a
Listen,
mistake.
my father could tell you I have big fight with him and say, you lead us into this thing
Yes.
with no type of
No
explanation.
type of
All
explanation.
of y'all. So whether
And-
PP,
and let me tell
SPA,
you,
whatever
the
the word they
same
tell
thing
you.
have happened on the French side. We need people into Article 74 without explaining them the responsibility that we're gonna have.
That's the word right there.
Okay?
But that's where campaigning comes before the truth. And again, this type,
Exactly.
and this time around, like MD Gumbs says all the time, you cannot legislate character, guys. If you want to know what we're about, talk to us. Because trustability, if you spoke to me and Melissa on the road, you could feel it. You could feel if it's genuine or not. And That I think everybody in St. Martin should be able to do that with the
And,
politicians.
and here's what the people saying about putting you guys back in parliament.
Oh,
This is
Lord.
what we're saying. We got,
Buzz it.
yeah, the buzzer's on. I tell you, we got 125 person. And out of the 125, I tell you the result when we come back. This is what they're saying. Oh my God. Yes, Melissa and Raeyhon, the people are saying, give you guys back a chance in parliament. I want to congratulate you. Be the best you could be.
Always.
The road that you're taking up is a tough one because it's a schooling road to get our people. Maybe if we continue 10 years from now, the people's going to understand what is a parliament, what we need to do, and we need to be honest.
Let's continue to educate them.
And let's continue to educate. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
PFP
you.
with us today, St. Martin. They got the buzzer for sure. SOS Radio, 95 yours. You see, if I had, you hear?